Alright, so let's take a look at number 5. We have Russell that is able to run a mile in 12 minutes, and Carlos is faster. He can run that mile in a shorter length of time. He can run it in 8 minutes. So if if we think of it kind of, it's not a true race because we're just going to set it up where finish, they cross this finish line at the same time. So we know that under normal conditions, a normal race, that we already know that Carlos is going to win. So what Carlos does is he gives Russell a head start. So while when they say on your mark, get set, go, Carlos stays just where he is, and Russell takes off moving. And when Russell has been running for 1 minute, then Carlos takes off. So Russell has been running, and Russell runs at 1 mile per 12 minutes, and Carlos runs at 1 mile per 8 minutes. So both of them here was time t equals 0, and there's 1 minute. Well, how long will it take Carlos to catch up to Russell? So right here, this time, we're going to let that be a variable, and that's the length of time that Carlos ran. Now we know that Russell has been running longer to cover that same distance. Russell ran for the same length of time that Carlos did, plus his minute head start. So let's set the distances equal to each other, because they both started right here, and they both finished at the same time. So the distance that Russell ran is the same distance that Carlos ran. We've seen it in an earlier problem in one of the other assignments. The head start was in terms of feet. I think it was Jenny and Sarah, and Sarah gave Jenny well, we had to find how much of a head start in feet. It may have turned out to be 150 feet, or I can't remember the exact answer. But suppose Sarah said, "Hey, you start up there, 150." Well, they didn't run the same length, but here that they are running the same length. They started here at the head start was in terms of time. All right, so we've got distance is equal to rate times time. So we want to look and see what information about rate and time that we can find for Russell, and the rate and the time for Carlos. So Russell's rate, we said, was 1 mile per 12 minutes, and Carlos was faster, 1 mile per 8 minutes. The length of time that Carlos ran, we're going to let that be our variable. So here's Carlos, the time, we're letting that be our variable. Now, we know that Russell was running for a longer length. He had a 1 minute head start. So his total time running was Carlos's time running plus that minute head start. All right, so let's go ahead and distribute. 1/12 times x is x over 12, plus 1 over 12 is equal to, if we just put that x over 1, is equal to x over 8. X over 12 is equal to Ah. One over 12 x over 8 minus x over 12 8 and 12 have a common denominator of 48. So I can multiply this term by 4 over 4. I can multiply, that's not going to let me do that. I can multiply this term by 6 over 6 to get 48, and we already saw that it was 4 over 4. Alright, so now all the denominators are the same, and we can focus our attention on the numerator, and I'm getting that x is 2. Now remember that x was the time in minutes that it took Carlos to catch Russell after he gave him that 1 minute head start. So I guess one thing to, recognize that Russell had been running longer, that Carlos ran for 2 minutes while Russell ran for 3 minutes. Now there's a second question I just noticed that it asked, how far will each have ran? Well, remember that each of them are running the same distance. We've got rate times time, rate times time. The distance that Russell ran is the same as the distance for Carlos. All I have to do is plug this 2 into either side of the equation. Let's just plug it in the right hand side. If we take 1/8 times 2, we get 1/4. So they each ran 1/4 of a mile. Each ran 1/4 of a mile. So I hope that helps. Alright, so let's move on to the next one.